While Rick C137, the Rick we follow for the entire series, spent decades pretending he didn't care about anything, Rick Prime actually didn't care. No alcoholism to numb the pain, no secret attachment hidden under layers of cynicism, no performance, just genuine, terrifying freedom from everything that makes us human. But that's not the only core belief he holds. By understanding all of them, we get to understand what happens when you truly believe nothing matters, and you set out to prove everyone else is just lying to themselves. But first, we need to go back to the moment that created both Ricks as we know them. Young Rick C137 is in his garage, trying to perfect teleportation technology. He's a young scientist, content with his small-time life with his beautiful wife and child. Then, a portal opens. Rick Prime walks through with an irresistible offer, at least to himself. He's a Rick from a different dimension that already created teleportation technology, only to find out he was the last one to actually invent it. Bummer. What he created after that, though, is something much more powerful than teleportation: the portal gun itself. It's the holy grail of science, the sci-fi weapon of choice.
Imagine doing anything you want, then hopping to a timeline where you never did it.
Except to C137. To him, it just sounds incredibly lonely to pursue that kind of thing. Prime's response tells you everything you need to know about the first pillar of his philosophy.
Lonely? Dude, you have yourself. Your infinite selves. It's a non-stop party where all the guests are the only person we like.
He offers it to Rick C137 free of charge. He can become the smartest, most powerful person in every conceivable universe, the infinite Rick, a god. But that's only enticing to someone that needs an escape, that needs that power. Our Rick looks at this offer and says 2 words.
Pass.
Prime is genuinely shocked. We'll later get to the reason why, but for now, he just questions what kind of Rick turns down that offer.
A different kind of Rick, I guess. Well, we'll see how long that lasts.
Diane walks in after hearing the sci-fi portal sounds. C137 tells her that maybe he doesn't want to be a scientist anymore. Seeing a version of himself who achieved more than he thought he ever would, turned into some nihilistic asshole, made him reflect on what that kind of path would look like. Instead of working on portal travel then, he just decides to take his family out for some ice cream. But as they're about to leave, another portal opens up, dropping a bomb. Diane and Beth die instantly. C137 collapses in despair. The show suggests that the reason Rick Prime did this might be because he was seeing this Rick who was better off than him, a Rick who stayed with his family and didn't obsess over being the smartest man on Earth or the whole universe, and seemed happy. And that made him jealous, resentful. C137 had something Prime could never have: meaning, depth, connection, love. So Prime took it away, all of it, to prove another petty point that'll become obvious later, but this is the harshest, most cruel, evil part of Rick in general, and Prime went all the way. It's the foundation of Rick Prime's entire worldview that's the issue. Why only care about this specific person when infinite versions of that person exist? Why value this moment in this dimension when it's happening differently somewhere else? It's the everything bagel all over again. Most of us can't actually live that way or comprehend that infinity. We love this person in this place at this time. We don't care how big the universe is, really. The specifics and our lives matter to us, even if they're cosmically arbitrary or replicated and duplicated however many other times in a theoretical multiverse. But Rick Prime made that leap. He stared into infinity, and his heart genuinely stopped caring about the particular and the specific individual. And he couldn't tolerate watching another Rick refuse to follow that pattern. After losing his family, Rick C137 also invents the portal gun. He spends decades hunting Prime across countless dimensions, killing other Ricks along the way, having sunk deep into his own nihilism and depression. He never finds him though, and eventually C137 gives up. He crashes into the garage of a now adult Beth in a different dimension, Prime's original dimension, actually. And this is where we met the Rick that we've been following for the entire series. For a long time, fans, and even Evil Morty, called C137 the Rickest Rick. The most detached, the most nihilistic, the most willing to abandon anything and anyone. But he isn't, he's a bit off from that. C137 does care. He saves his family repeatedly, the same one. He doesn't just jump dimensions. He's rogue, he's irrational, he's passionate, he's depressed, he's nihilistic, but he still has some love in his heart. When C137 finally encounters Prime again in Solar Ricks, he tells Morty something important.
For you to be bait, the guy'd have to value something. He truly does not give a shit. He's the real deal.
Think about what that means. Rick Prime is what C137 pretended to be, the actual Rickest Rick. C137 drinks himself unconscious, self-destructs, pushes people away while secretly desperate for them to stay. He uses nihilism as armor against his pain. Prime doesn't drink, doesn't party, doesn't need substances to numb anything because he doesn't feel that pain to begin with. Prime's worldview comes through in everything he does. He has infinite clones scattered across multiple universes. He exists in hundreds of places simultaneously. He spent years traveling the multiverse, giving other Ricks portal technology so that they would become the same lonely, hateful person he is. As he says during the final battle,
"Honestly, wife guy, I do miss when it was just us, the only two Ricks who actually invented portal travel."
Everyone else got it secondhand. Only Prime and C137 figured it out themselves. Prime never felt that anyone was really his equal. And Prime's entire belief system is built on one idea. The only thing any Rick needs is his infinite selves. Nothing like attachments to finite stuff, just bathing in your own eternal glory. Just yourself, endlessly reflected across infinity. Because he himself is the only person he actually likes, and seeing reflections of himself in other universes would be the only other person he would actually tolerate, other himselves. Most people who say nothing matters are actually screaming, "I'm hurting and I don't know how to process it." But Rick Prime represents something far more unsettling. Someone who has genuinely internalized that philosophy and lives accordingly. That's his second pillar, straightforward, emotionless, authentic nihilism. He cut all family ties, has no addiction to numbing pain, just the void, accepted and embodied in chaos. Rick Prime looked at infinity and genuinely concluded that attachment to any particular thing is pointless and that he should just look after himself and his own needs, and that's it. And he can't understand why any other Rick, any other version of himself, would choose differently. Which is exactly what leads us to the third pillar of his philosophy, evident through Rick Prime's greatest creation, the Omega device. It erases someone from every single dimension, every timeline, every possible reality where they could exist, and it alters everyone else's memories to avoid the paradox. They cease to have even mattered, they cease to have existed. Prime himself claims the device is too cool to have a name, and that the Omega device is what inferiors call it. And I'll take this from him just this once, but only because he's just a little smarter than me. Who does Rick Prime use this machine on first? Every single Diane across infinite realities. But why? Well,
"You acted like you were better, so I killed your beloved Diane."
one Rick showed attachment, got on Rick Prime's nerves, and all the other universes had to pay for it. And it gets worse. Prime has set up an elaborate death trap, an invisible space station, pre-recorded messages, a naked clone dancing in a tube just to mock anyone pursuing him. Rick C137 can't counter that because every action he takes is the same action Rick Prime would take. He is his equal in terms of intelligence and cunning. Prime is essentially Jigsaw here, sending waves of robots, fake bomb countdowns, trolling C137 through screens. But the real cruelty comes when Prime captures C137, Morty, and Evil Morty in his lair. He tells all the trapped Ricks something. The last one standing gets to see Diane again.
"But that's why I want to make a deal. One of you is going to get your Diane back."
He's lying! He's lying!
"All you have to do is be the last Rick left."
It's an obvious lie. But these Ricks are desperate, blinded by emotion, and there's nothing else they can do, so they start killing each other. When C137 and Evil Morty ultimately win, Prime does give them Diane, in some form. He unleashes a disturbing robot bearing her face to attack them, then spawns more Diane robots throughout the entire fight. He uses the image of C137's dead wife as a weapon to taunt him and attack him over and over and over again. The most revealing moment comes earlier in that fight. Prime demonstrates the Omega device on someone, his own uncle, Slow Mobius. He summons him to the device, and before activating it, Prime says something.
Yeah, this one hurts me too.
Wait, does he really have feelings? He cares about Slow Mobius? I'll let you decide that one in the comments. He doesn't let that stop him either way. Slow Mobius slows down time for one final time, giving the other versions of himself scattered across dimensions just a few extra seconds with the people they used to love. That shows Rick Prime's third pillar of his philosophy: power as absolute negation. Most villains want to build empires, gain followers, leave a legacy, stand atop a mountain of corpses and living beings bowed to them in prayer. They want their existence to matter more than anyone else's and be worshipped for it. Rick Prime creates weapons that make things matter less. He tears things down and just creates the ultimate destruction and annihilation of something. He doesn't care about glory or social power or something like that. During the final battle, he even goes so far as to threaten to erase everyone from C137's family tree, every one of them, one by one, until Rick finally learns his lesson. The same lesson from before, that attachment is weakness. Caring about particular people in particular dimensions is the problem, or caring about anyone at all. And that's what's terrifying about how effective this is. By erasing Diane, he retroactively unmakes C137's entire motivation for decades, unmakes everything he cares for, everything he exists for. The things that Rick C137 fought for would never have existed in the first place. But that exact pillar is also where Rick Prime's philosophy gets a bit more complicated. If nothing matters really, if attachment is meaningless, if all versions are equivalent, both love and hate, why does Prime spend so much energy on one specific Rick? It seems he has some kind of connection there, He builds invisible death traps in space, creates elaborate pre-recorded messages where his eyes follow C137's movements in real time, scatters infinite clones across universes just to make himself harder to find. For someone who claims complete attachment, he sure is invested in tormenting the single Rick who rejected his original offer. It's not just about defense for him. He specifically hates this one guy. Why? This is also evident from the final battle. When C137, Morty, and Evil Morty finally corner him, Prime fights all three of them simultaneously, with ease. The choreography shows something important. It kind of looks like Prime is just playing around, some friendly roughhousing. But he's still Rick, and like all Ricks, he underestimates Morty. Evil Morty tricks him by swapping clothes with the main Morty, putting his eye patch on him. Prime Rick thinks that he's about to kill Prime Morty, his original grandson, and lets his guard down just long enough, and it incapacitates him. Prime immediately tries to form an alliance, but Evil Morty, or Prime Morty, isn't interested. Instead, he takes out all of Prime's clones across the multiverse and steals the Omega device schematics. Then he drags Rick C137 into the room and leaves them alone to do as Rick will. Prime warns Rick.
Listen, Rick to Rick, he's got the weapon plans. He's 14. What's gonna happen the next time he gets mad at Grandpa?
Rick is not even listening. He starts to beat Prime to death with his bare hands, smashing his skull in with his fists until the blood and flesh flecks off and hits the walls. And this is when Prime reveals what this was always about.
You're welcome, by the way. I made you. I showed you infinity.
Prime offered him portal technology, and when C137 didn't choose it, he got a forced transformation instead.
And what did you do with it? Hang out with my grandson? Raise echoes of my daughter?
Prime is laughing, even as he's dying while Rick pummels his face in, because he knows exactly what that means.
What's your life without me? Admit it. You would have been me.
There it is, the core of his philosophy.
I just walked into your garage before you walked into mine.
He's calling back to that original conversation, when Rick C137 said he was a different kind of Rick, and Prime said, "We'll see how long that lasts." Prime spent decades proving that he was right. That's what really mattered to him. Rick C137 invented portal travel, spent decades hunting Prime across infinite dimensions, killed countless other Ricks in the process, created the Citadel to organize the hunt and to allow the other Ricks to do something over there in the corner. He abandoned any possibility of new attachments because he was so focused on his revenge. Prime turned the one Rick who chose family over power into someone whose entire identity was then built on violence and vengeance.
You lived in my house!
Prime says while being beaten to death. There's anger there, vindictiveness now, because C-137 did something Prime couldn't. He found another Beth, another family, and tried to pretend they were enough. He tried to put off his revenge. He tried to put off his single-minded pursuit. But they weren't C-137's original family. They were Prime's abandoned family. And Prime knew that even while living with them, C-137 was still hunting, still killing, still becoming exactly what Prime wanted him to become, even as he tried to pretend that his replacement family fixed everything, even as he tried to build a new love for a new family. The philosophical victory for him was always more important than the physical confrontation, than the actual people he killed. Prime doesn't really care about killing or dying. He only cares about being correct. And as he dies with each pummeling blow from Rick C-137's fists, he knows he's proved his point. Show any Rick infinity, and eventually they'll transform into something cold and detached. They will eventually abandon love for power. They will become Prime. C-137 thinks he's different because he still cares about his replacement family, or he thinks he does. But Prime knows the truth. C-137's entire life has been defined by the moment that Prime stole everything away from him. And that's the ultimate victory. Rick C-137 walks out of that room covered in his nemesis's blood and viscera. He's completely silent. His face is blank. Morty celebrates. They did it! They finally got Rick Prime! But Rick doesn't feel victorious. He feels empty. The episode ends with a scene that directly parallels Rick Potion number 9 from Season 1. Back then, Morty was traumatized. He'd just buried a version of himself in the backyard after they abandoned their entire dimension. Rick acted like it was just another day. Now, the roles are reversed. Rick stands there with a 1,000-yard stare while Look On Down from the Bridge plays, the same song from that original episode, a callback if you would. His purpose for existing, his meaning, just ended. It just stopped after his last blow. The hatred that defined his entire existence, the pursuit that took decades of his life, the last connection he had to his dead wife in that final moment. All of it went away, and now there's seemingly nothing left to do, no ultimate purpose. The show gives us one more thing in the post-credits scene of Unmort Rickon. Slow Mobius's wife. She lost her husband the same way that Rick lost Diane, erased from every dimension by the Omega device. She, having still remembered her husband, goes through the same spiral, the same hunt, knowing that something is wrong, that he's gone, and not knowing where he is, but not knowing what has happened. But then, something different happens. She encounters another being who similarly lost their spouse in a gruesome accident, and they become romantic partners. They raise their children together. They move forward in life. Unlike Rick, she's chosen not to let her loss define her entire existence and purpose. The show isn't subtle about this contrast. It's showing us what Rick could have chosen years ago instead. Revenge or healing. Obsession or growth. Rick chose revenge, and Prime always knew he would. They're two sides of the same coin after all. This is what Rick Prime's real philosophy was always building toward. He wanted to prove that seeing infinity and the infinite nothingness corrupts everyone, and that really nothing truly matters. He left Rick C-137 adrift in a world of infinite possibilities, yet forever shackled to a single moment of loss, the single person he would never be able to get back. The man who broke him was also the one who defined him. Rick C-137 thought that he was different. He chose family. He stayed where Prime and an infinite number of other Ricks left. But Prime proved that all it takes sometimes is one moment of loss, one glimpse of infinity, one confrontation with the worst that humanity has to offer, and even the best Rick can transform into the worst. So, what does Rick Prime's philosophy actually teach us? The show seems to be asking a couple questions. Does seeing infinity, does realizing that there's an infinite expanse of nothingness around you mean that attachment and love becomes meaningless? Or does it make the particular and the individual experience and person more precious in the now? Prime chose the first answer, that everything is infinite, so nothing specific matters. He chose himself, his glory, his power, his corruption of other Ricks. He needed C137 to become like him to prove that he wasn't wrong for abandoning his family, that he was right in nothing mattering. But maybe that's exactly wrong. Maybe we can face the ultimate nothing, the infinite expanse of the multiverse, and still say, I love my family, I love hanging out with my friends, and I love doing things I enjoy. Adventure Time's Jake saw impermanence everywhere. He lived in a multiverse with gods, and he understood that everything ends, that nothing lasts, that you can't control the outcomes of most things in life. And he chose connection anyway. Rick Prime saw infinity and chose isolation and ego. Jake saw impermanence and chose love. Just like when you will choose to like, comment, and subscribe.
And hey, if you want to see that other side of this philosophy, check out our video on Jake's philosophy. It'll completely alter the way you view life and death, and that's just from Jake the dog. So watch that next, and we'll see you there.